All right, what's up, everyone? Wanted to talk about this new book I'm reading right now called Exercised. Hopefully, some of the people I know, from Revolution and the past physical therapists and trainers that I've worked with are onto this already. But Daniel Lieberman, the author of The Story of the Human Body, which I've always recommended, he was also the anthropologist that was referenced in the book Born to Run by McDougall, which I think came out in 2008. I'm not sure about the date on the book, The Story of the Human Body, but it was an awesome book. Somewhere along the lines, I'd actually started talking about going back to get my PhD in anthropology because I was getting so into it. One of the things that had started it was just understanding the differences, the gender differences between, males and females when it came to ACL injuries and just injuries and concussions in general. And just kept digging more into that. Right around the same time I was actually really getting into economics. And it's funny how they kind of really go hand in hand because economics dictates a lot about how cultures change, and also people change over time. This is the same type of idea with evolution in quotation marks. Got to be careful with people's beliefs along those lines. But this book Exercised is really interesting. The first part is in the book Born to Run, they talk about the Tarahumara Indians in Mexico that were these kind of tribal hunter-gatherer people that would run 400-mile runs and all this stuff. And basically he kind of debunked this idea that all of these hunter-gatherer tribes people are these superior athletes. He went and stayed with all these different tribes, especially the Tarahumara. And it's a really cool, interesting kind of twist on the scenario where, these people have some genetic capabilities to do things that probably other people, throughout the world can't do, but they're also not these super freak athletes. And the fact was that most of these hunter-gatherer tribes, they spend a lot of time resting in between their physical activity. Yeah, they get about the same amount of physical activity as the average, farmer or manual labor here in the United States, but they spend a lot more time at rest. And he also starts getting into the idea of the kind of manufacturing and commercialization of fitness and exercise, and how much more we need it now because we don't get enough of our physical activity from our daily energy expenditure on our tasks and work related activities. So most of us are sitting sedentary. And it just really got me thinking, is when you look at the hunter-gatherer population, and the fact that they spend a lot of time at rest, and he's starting to get into this. I'm only into like the second chapter. I should note that, and hopefully I'll keep talking about this as I get going here throughout the book. I'll probably keep revisiting this, but it's a question of, is it laziness, or is it kind of strategic, or is it just a less stress, lifestyle type of thing? And then it also makes you come back to and go, okay, well, if hunter-gatherers aren't any more physically active than your typical Americans, why do we promote exercise, and why do we promote this healthy, vigorous lifestyle? And my bias always comes back to, well, let's look at performance, right? Is the benefit of daily exercise regimens, and I'll jump to this too. He also talks about how, physical activity was, physical exercise was promoted, by the Greeks and the Egyptians. But with that said, it was usually in kind of the upper class and educated people. And it was promoted as this increasing your health span and your vigor and all these things. Well, it's like, well, why would you want that? Well, the argument I would have is that for, the ambitious people out there, doing things to improve your performance like we do in sports is going to be, a key factor or a key reason in why you want to increase your physical activity and you want to have, a lot of physical, exercise, whether it's, again, through your daily activities or going to the gym and hopping on the treadmill. So, ambition has to be, a major factor. And then secondly, a health span, right? Looking at your longevity in terms of your functional capability and your resiliency throughout your lifespan. Physical exercise, especially when it gets more specialized, is going to, help you have a better health span and just in general, your resiliency and your functional capability. And so it really started to make me think like, well, basically what would be a reason why, a species, especially a mammal, would start to want to, you know, focus on performance or be more ambitious. And when you look at the history, and look at the anthropology, most species and organisms do this in terms of survival and replication, right? So the more that you have to survive, in terms of using your physical activity to survive, the more that you're going to find that, a necessity to stay in really good shape, and to, there would ultimately end up being a fear and stress and anxiety about getting out of shape, if you needed your physical faculties to survive. But the key probably factor comes back to mate selection. And this is one of the things when you study the differences between boys and girls and men and women in terms of their physical characteristics and injuries and performance and all of these things, a lot of it comes back to reproduction, right? And the reasons why we select the mates that we select is somewhat hardwired based upon the anthropological science and evidence, is that we are going to pick mates that are going to have, us give us the better chance of having healthy offspring. And through that mate selection process, being in better physical condition and, smarter and more ambitious and more successful, tried and true over the years, it improves your ability to select a mate and, retain that mate, and as well as have, solid, healthy, quality offspring. So I just think it's a really cool book. If you guys want to check it out, again, it's called Exercised with a D. The guy's name is Daniel Lieberman, and I'm looking forward to, chomping through more of this book and giving you guys some more nuggets from it. All right, talk to you later. Thanks.